The views expressed by our guests in the following video are solely the opinions of our guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and or opinions of the Ola 7 podcast show. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to the Spotlight with Yvonne Mangunda, and it's another week and obviously another sporting personality. And as I've said in the last couple of weeks, it is the season of the ZIFA elections. We will find out in January who will lead Zimbabwe in the next phase as the ZIFA elections will be held. And I have in the studio one of the candidates for the big one, the presidency. And over the last couple of weeks, we've had different guests coming in who are also vying for the same position. People like Twine Piri and Masha Ogore. In the studio today, I have Nqobile Magwizi.
Nqobile.
I hope I got it right.
Almost.
Did
there.
I get the
Nqobile.
Nqo?
Nqobile. You learn. Don't worry. It's okay.
It's like I hope it's not like one of those, like when people call me Yvonne, I'm like, I'm Yvonne.
No, but you know what? I mean, you will learn. It's a process of learning. All of us learn. We don't know everything. So you will get to be able to click one of these days.
I hope so. And I want to talk about that because is it an indication of where you grew up? Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Gokwe, the rural areas. But originally, we come from Lower Gweru. That's where we come from. Mangwande village. That's where we come from. But right now we moved. My parents moved to Gokwe. In Rumuma village, where we grew up. I went to a primary school called Chegama Primary School out there in Rumuma, and had wonderful teachers during my early childhood. One of my teachers, Mrs. Chiweshe, an amazing educator. She did an amazing job for me, grade 1. We're still in touch with her. Amazing, yeah. So from Rumuma, which is Chegama Primary School, I then went to for a small short while, Gwehala. You know, there's another school just about 4 kilometers from my village called Gwehala. I went there and I spent, I think, 2 terms there. Yeah, and then from there, I was moved again to Harare. That's when I came to Harare.
Harare, which school?
I went to Mofu Primary School.
In Highfield?
In Highfield.
Allow me to stop you there because I look at you when you walked in. Obviously, this is our first time sitting down having a conversation. And you are so well put together, if I might say that. And traditionally, when we look at people like that, we start thinking of their grooming. Do they go to a private school? Which schools do they go to? And then I'm hearing you talking about a village.
I came from a village and I came through, all the places, Gwehala and Mofu Primary School. We used to play, I had a friend of mine who was a good midfielder. His name was Chamu. Chamu used to be very good. Our number 5 at Mofu Primary School. He used to play very well. And there's another guy called Claudius. He used to play football as well. I think those guys were amazing during our times. They were celebrities at Mofu. And we used to play Chengu, Kuangira.
I went to Tsungai Primary School.
Tsungai, yes. Yeah, I know that. So yeah. So we used to stay at MW. That's where we still have a house there. My father had a house there, and we grew up playing on the streets of Highfield, going to Zororo, Egypt, Canaan,
Jerusalem.
Those are the places that as young children we would spend our time hanging out and then going to Gwanzura Stadium. We had gay brothers. They used to use that ground a lot, and they were inspiration when we were growing up. And we had Zimbabwe grounds. Mazigo. We used to go there, play, watch I think the social leagues, and obviously I think the Division 2s used to play there. We would spend our time playing, having fun. It was a good time. It was a good time growing up.
I'm so glad that obviously with the show, I always try not to give like the guest questions and I find that it's so good that as you're interviewing a person, you start learning about the person, you start peeling these layers. And I would have never pictured you as having stayed in Highfield, because obviously with Highfield, there's a lot of, you talk about Nyadza Mazigo Gwanzura growing up.
CJ.
There was a lot of CJ.
We used to watch, man, they would bring these kung fu movies, and every Sunday we would go there religiously would go there with my friends and would watch Ask Mama for 50 cents, then would go there, watch, and after the movie, you think that you are like a movie character, you can do all the moves, so it was used to be a lot of fun.
And from then on, you are Pamofu. In high school, where did you go to?
So when after primary school, I then was fortunate because my brothers and sisters had started working. Then I was put to a Group A school, finishing my A-levels in 97 at Prince Edward. Very fortunate enough to have been amongst some of the top sportsmen in the country. During that time, we had Patrick Gumunyu, a sportsmaster of note. He inspired a lot of boys. Pete Bernard, for one of the coaches who then began to coach him, was my junior. He was in Jameson. I was in Selu. And we had a whole lot of boys who went through Mtendera. He's now one of the conveners, I think.
Convener at Zimbabwe, my workplace, Zimbabwe Cricket.
Zimbabwe Cricket. Yes. I mean, we were in the same stream with Mtendera. People like Spencer Banda, Tundra Indiraya, Alan Johnson, those were all guys in my stream. We were in that stream all together. It was an amazing time. I think we're 1,500 boys at Prince Edward. But one of the interesting things is that you would find your place. I mean, out of 1,500 boys, everybody, you have to be counted for something.
What's up with PE boys? Because I find PE is like, I'll translate it maybe to cricket. We've got a club called Takashinga. Like, you feel like if you meet somebody from Takashinga, they have this bond that they have. And with PE boys, you seem like even as you go into the corporate world, as you go out into the world, there's this bond that's there. I worked alongside Spencer, meeting other PE boys. What is it about PE that brings that bond?
No, I think it's about culture and branding. We had an amazing headmaster during our time. His name was Clive Barnes. One of the, I think, greatest educators for our time. He drilled in us certain values to create a strong brand out of Prince Edward, and made us all believe that we're the best school in the world. Made us all believe that we had to be counted for something in the world. Of course, I mean, that was part of his, philosophy to groom men who can be able to stand in the real world and be able to create value for their communities. So I was fortunate to have, gone through that school.
How important was that grooming? Now that we look at what you've achieved and where you want to go in the future, that grooming?
I think it helps, but a lot of it, Yvonne, you know that it's grace, to be where we are in life. It's really grace. There's people that are better than us in certain aspects, but God allows you to do certain things that they never would be able to do. So sometimes, yes, you are fortunate you get these opportunities where you interact with people that add value to you, give you certain values. But above all, I think it's grace that really sustains us in everything we do in our lives. It's not about how sophisticated you are. Sometimes it's grace. But when we are given a chance, then we must excel. We must draw from all the experience we've achieved over time. Use that experience to demonstrate that we can be counted and add value to our communities. We can bring about a transformation, a positive one, So it's all about grace in my view, but it adds a lot of value to have people that can add a new value to you in respect of various aspects of life, teaching us various aspects which are important for us as human beings.
And let's move on from Prince Edward.
Yes.
We're now going into tertiary education.
Yes. So when I finished, It's an interesting story. So at that time, the University of Zimbabwe then started charging students. Previously, you would get an allowance for being a student, and it was an exciting time. But because my family, was not very, very rich, as I told you that for my secondary schools, my father just retired, and he didn't have money. So I had an option to go back to the rural areas, or my brothers and sisters could contribute money for me to go to university. That was difficult. Then I spoke to my headmaster, Clive Barnes. I told him this was my situation. In fact, I was actually in boarding as a consequence of my situation at that time. And even my fees for that year, my last year, were not paid. So I told him my circumstances, and he said, no, it's okay, I will help you. One of the referees for rugby at that level, his name was Zitzman, Mr. Zitzman. He was the finance director at a company called City Glass and Paints. So Mr. Clive Barnes spoke to him, said, no, I have a young man, he has a situation, I would love you to help him. Then the Zitzman said, no, I am looking for youngsters to train as accountants. Yeah, I can take him on. Is he a good boy? He said, no, all my boys are good. I think that's what he said. And then Zitzman said, no. As soon as you finish your exam, your last exam, come to work. So I finished my exam in 1997, in November. The next day I went to work. City Glass and Paints, 7 Camp Road in Grandside. I started working as an debtor's clerk. I was being taught, and I learned very well. And at that point, I then started to find which course I could do. Then there was ACCA ACA. That's how I started to do ACA. And I started working on ACA, and through that career as an accountant at that time.
So how did we get to, when you were studying, did you physically go to university to study? Because I sort of looked at your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I have to. And you've gone to these schools,
yes,
outside the country.
Absolutely. So with ACCA, you do it on the job. Okay. Then you write exams. There was a school called Open Learning Center at that time. And I think Spaces used to also offer the program. So I did it with Spaces and Open Learning Center. And then I obviously, got promoted. I left City Glass and Paints, then went to another company called Black Hood Hodge. There I got promoted. It was a bigger job, more money, Then I got again promoted, went look for another job which had more money. It was called Cataract Processors. I think there was a man called Steele who was running that company. These were all BAT boys who were running this company, and I was in a better position there as an accountant.
So how did you end up at? Well, I'm sorry, I'm frustrating this, but how did we end up at Sakunda?
All right. So I've never worked for Sakunda.
So why the perception that Magwizi is the Sakunda guy?
So basically, let me just walk you through quickly so that you get the full picture. So after I left as an accountant, accounting is an amazing profession, but then I found it to be a bit, repetitive.
Yes.
The month-end procedures took their toll on me. I wasn't happy that I would need to just do the same thing every month. Then I decided to move out, of that space. And I said, look, what can I do? As an accountant, I said, look, let me start a business. I teamed up with a guy called Zimbabwean. He was, I think at that time, he was CEO of ZBC, the youngest at that time. We became friends. We linked up with another friend. We said, look, let's start a company. We started a company called Savannah Media Center.
Okay.
Savannah Media Center was an amazing company. We had an amazing business plan. But of course, we struggled to, make it take off because I think there were other challenges. We had premised our business on the relationship with Studio 263 and the fact that we needed to be the ones who would give or sell all the airtime to all the advertisers. And the advertiser would have none of that. So that caused a lot of problems for us. But anyway, that's a long story. But from there, that company could not proceed because of those challenges. But at that time, when I was with Mnyaradzi, we then recruited one of the most amazing creative directors you'll find in Zimbabwe, Nqobile. He came, joined us at Savannah Media Center. But with the challenges we had at Savannah, we set up a company called Tattoo Advertising. Okay. Advertising, I mean, has done amazing work over the years, which I'm still chairman of. Tattoo is where I then met up with Sakunda. Sakunda is a client of Tattoo.
So how does it? Okay, fine. I'm trying to figure this out because obviously, this is something. It's so good that you've cleared this part because the perception has always been Magwizi Sakunda. Magwizi, he is the right-hand man of Kuda Tagwirei. Okay. How true is that?
So we have an amazing relationship with Sakunda. So as I've told you, even at inception, we worked on the branding, we worked on all the strategies for the Sakunda brand and how it's grown to be where it is. So consequently, relationships develop and grow as a consequence of that. But Sakunda has not only been the only client for Tattoo. There's been other brands in the fray. You look at Zimsan was rebranded to African Sun. We're behind that. We've been handling South African Airways. We did a bit of work for Delta. We've done a lot of work for most of the clients.
But is it not because maybe Sakunda, your connection or Sakunda being a client introduced you to our space, which is the sports space?
Absolutely. So what we did, our role really, we were handling all the PR and advertising issues for Sakunda. So all the people who would request for sponsorship out of Sakunda, they would obviously come through us. We're the agent representing Sakunda, the brand. So they would come, have conversations with us, and then we would see the needs, assess, do a proposal for Sakunda, submit it. Sakunda would, based on our recommendation, mostly whatever we recommended, they would take because they trusted our ability to judge correctly. So we became sort of a portal for a lot of people that wanted to interact with Sakunda, the brand. And
that should have made you a powerful man in the sporting era, because when we talk about Sakunda was putting a lot of money into Zim Sport. We look at teams like Dynamos and Highlanders.
Yes. I don't know what you refer to as power, but definitely a lot of influence. But we were, genuine. We loved what we were doing, and we respected the ambitions of our principal. Hence, we worked in a manner which was transparent and accountable, because we wanted to make sure that whatever we're recommending, if we were to be audited later on, it will be clear that the recommendation was indeed sound. So we were basing our engagements on the need to create value for Sakunda, the brand.
And looking from outside.
Yes.
What problems, what issues did you encounter or see with our sport, specifically football? Because obviously people will be coming with all these ideas. I think you should come. Sakunda should sponsor us for this. We've got this great idea. And you're also interacting with the people. You're seeing what the media is writing about, the same brands that are coming and saying, no, we can do A, B, C, D for you.
Yeah. So the principal of Sakunda is an amazing man, and with a lot of grace. People have tried all sorts of, proposals. Some of them you could see these are not genuine proposals, but there's a lot that have come through which are very genuine. And the principal has actually helped them. Some of it, you never get to know about it in the media. A lot of help has been extended to various institutions, sporting institutions. And it gives you a perspective as to the challenges, we have in sport, and the need to come up with a more robust framework to ensure that there's more sustainability in sport. I think it's very important. It would be good to have more corporates participating at that level at which Sakunda has been participating. It would be amazing if more corporates could do that, put the amount of resources that Sakunda has been putting. It would be great. Because then that would propel our sport to another level in Zimbabwe, and we can be reckoned as one of the powerhouses in Africa.
So that involvement with Sakunda,
yes,
is it what brought about the idea of wanting to get involved in Zimbabwean sport? So
when you work with a group of people for a long time, then you understand exactly what's happening. But even before I got to Sakunda, I ran a magazine which was called Spotlight. Funny enough, your brand, your program's called Spotlight.
Yes.
We had a program, a magazine which used to print. I think at that time we were printing it out of China. And it was a soccer magazine.
Okay.
Around 2007, thereabout, we were running that magazine, working closely with Zimbabwe Cricket. One of the editors, they're still operational. They're still, a journalist. I think we had a guy called Hope. He was the editor for that magazine. Another guy called Enoch Mchinjo, who was also,
Okay, still loves his cricket.
Yeah, loves his cricket. So those were my team members. As I ran that magazine. It was very successful, with all the Mrapes coming to our offices for photo shoots. And it was very successful. And we started having that interaction at that level. That was way back in 2000. And even as I started working more and more with Sakunda around 2011, 2012, more teams would come, for help. Dynamos would come, but would come up with short-term, interventions for them. Even Highlanders, short-term interventions. But more teams came, even Masvingo United, even Obanket, they came. And we started working with those teams at various levels.
But the obvious question would be, after everything you've told me about your educational background, where you worked, the companies you were dealing with, why would you want to come into football? Because football is such a muddy space.
Absolutely. My friends were laughing at me. Are you sure you're about to do this? Are you not afraid that this is going to tarnish your image? But we can never be better than the communities from which we come from. We can never be better. We are Zimbabweans at the core. At best, we can be identified by the West in us. So if we think that it's muddy, it's because pretty much describes who we are as a community. So I can't be better than my community. I have to be my community. So I'll give you an example. There's a friend of mine, former schoolmate. His name is Kuda Tagwirei. He's a social media... Yes. Yeah,
Follow him on Twitter.
Absolutely. There's one thing he talks about, that when there is processes that are taking place in our communities, we don't want to lift our hands up because we think we're too special. But the consequences of not lifting up our hands will live with them forever, because somebody else is going to do it for you and you're not going to be happy. You say, but we could have done better. But the opportunity came for you to lift up your hand and participate, and you didn't want to.
But in Zimbabwe now, there's the issue, the term Banmebora.
Yeah.
There is this thing with football people where they feel we're the football people, we understand the game, we love the game. And you're coming here and your CV's got all these things you've done, right? Outside football. And they compare you with people that have already been in the game who can say, oh, I own a club, I do this, I do this, I do that.
Yeah, that's a shallow approach to life. And it's very unfortunate that there's people who have that kind of mindset. But I think it's okay to have that perspective for people. You cannot blame people to have a different perspective. I think it's okay to say Banebora. But let me tell you how big the football community is. So we have the football players, the people who play. And at some point, people, someone would have played football, especially for boys. And girls are beginning to also play football at some point. Some are fortunate enough to then go to the next level, to the professional level, and we get to know their names. But there's a lot that play that we never get to know about. They're still football people. All these people that we're talking about, they come from families who support them. Some are parents who drive them to the academies. Some are, who give them funds to be able to travel for matches and stuff like that. Those are part of the football community. We have the referees. We have the administrators. Those are part of the football community. The people who drive the buses to take people to the matches. These are all football communities. Over and above that, you have the corporate world. That, for instance, you cannot say Delta is not part of the football community when they have put so much resources. You can't say Sakunda is not part of the football community when they're putting resources.
But the argument will always be the Munakatamba Bora.
Yes.
The one who went on the pitch is the one who understands the game, who understands what is needed, who understands what the problems are and where we need to go.
No. But there's a scientific approach to administration. And this is why people have to understand that, yes, that experience is important. And these roles are not done when you become the president, for instance, of ZIFA. You're not alone in that space. There is a team that is working with you, a team of 11. That's why you need to combine your experiences so that you bring out one good thing. So I do not doubt my space in the football world. This is a community sport. The community is big. The football community is huge. But what is good though is the passion that drives a lot of these people, of these supporters, of the people who say, is the passion. They're passionate because they want the best results.
But the argument in this election, leading into this election, as we went through the whole vetting process, the argument has been Magwizi is the chosen one.
I think
I want you to talk about that, to say, how does that make you feel, and how far true is it when people say a statement like he's the chosen one?
I think it's mischief on the part of those who are perpetuating that branding to say Magwizi is the chosen one, because the idea is to say he doesn't deserve it. So this has been created for him. I have no challenge, going head to head with my compatriots based on what we are able to deliver. And the beauty about football is that the results will always show. That's the beauty about football. We can have all these side shows and the drama, but at the end of the day, when the teams play, we will know whether we have a good thing going on for Zimbabwe or not. So I'm not even worried about people who say he's the chosen one, because it's a branding that they hope it would stick and work against me in respect of the achievement, or rather the objective I have of transforming the football space in Zimbabwe. I'm very clear in my mind of what needs to happen, what needs to be done. I'm very clear of the value that we can create together. But this is not a one-man show. It's us working together, agreeing on things that will create value for all of us and pursuing them aggressively.
So we're going to talk about what you want to bring onto the table. But before we go there, I still want to ask this. We've come from you being the chosen one.
Yes.
There's also allegations that you are Tagwirei's proxy.
Nothing could be further from the truth. I've explained my relationship with Dr. Tagwirei. I've worked with him for a long time. He's a great man, absolutely. And I've been fortunate to have been close to him, because there's very few people who have the sort of mind he has. One of the brightest minds, I believe, in Africa. So I'm very, very fortunate to have been given the opportunity to even work close to him. Now, anybody of us, given that opportunity, if you get it, you must grab it. Because it's not many people who have that privilege. And I cannot even regret to say, no. I'm very grateful to God. And I know it's grace that found me to have that opportunity to work as close to him as I've managed to.
And allegations that the experience with Banket United was manufactured. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the thing is, how many of us know actually who the board members are for Banket, for instance?
I didn't.
Yeah. Do you know the board members for Mngobile United?
No.
Absolutely. So it's people who create stories just to try and smear their opponents. But those who know, they know. In fact, it's not even an issue that worries me, because I know I got nothing to prove. Those that I've worked with, they know me. They know my involvement. They know how we've worked together, the journey we've traveled together. So that suffices for me.
And before we move on to what you are promising on the table, some say when in Rome, do what the Romans do. What has your campaign been like? Because this is a question I've asked previous candidates, to say there's always speculation that money is changing hands. During the campaign, there's speculation on the councillors being given money by people that are contesting. What has your campaign been like? Yes. How have you handled this issue?
Yeah, so it's very interesting. I had an experience where we had requested councillors to come. And of course, when people travel, there is, of course, expenses that they will incur. And I think we've made sure that we do cover, travel expenses for the councillors. I think there was a query that was then raised. I think we had given councillors $30 to cover their taxis and all that. And I think there was a query to say, but Magwizi, we have more expenses than that. And I said, look, we can always discuss if there is more expenses that you need to cover. Some of them will say, no, we've come out of town. We need to be covered for accommodation. Those things are important. But we need to make sure that we have integrity within our game. We need to make sure that we have integrity. We have to do things which are sustainable. The moment that we do things that we cannot sustain, it's very unfortunate. But here's the thing that I need to speak to first before we even run away. The councillors play an integral role in terms of our survival as an association. A lot of them, especially in the grassroots, they use a lot of personal resources to keep the game going. They don't get support from head office. They are the ones who have to get food for the children who are playing soccer. They have to get the boots. They have to make sure they get the uniforms. They make sure they have to organize transport money for these young people. And they are the leaders in those areas. Unfortunately, the current system does not recognize their efforts. So when councillors come seeking for help, then people demonize them and say, no, this councillor is being corrupt. I have a team that I'm working with in Gokwe. They have resources that they need on a regular basis. Sometimes in a meeting, they tell you, our bus has not come. We need $200 or so much to feed the children. Then you have to send an eco-cash for them to cater for that problem. Our councillors all over the country, they are fighting to keep the game moving forward. We see these players as they are now playing at the highest level, at the professional level. They've come from these places, and we don't even recognize these people. So it's actually quite saddening when people demonize councillors who sacrifice their resources, their life savings, keeping teams going. It's not cheap to keep a team going. You must understand that.
I saw a post where Moses Chunga highlighted that fact that keeping an academy going or keeping a team going. But then the issue then becomes, how far would you go? Because if there's then that system of expectation, of expecting, or a system that has been set where people think in order for you to be voted for, you need to do A, B, C, D. How far as a candidate, as an individual, how far will you go?
It's because you have nothing to offer. If you resort to that, it's because you have nothing to offer. If you sell your campaign, your manifesto well enough, and people can see the vision you have for the future of Zimbabwean football. You see, right now we have a small little cake. A small cake. And it's dwindling at this rate. And I'm saying, guys, we can grow this cake. There is enough value that can be created. The global football industry right now is about 300 billion annually. And Zimbabwe is a drop in the ocean in terms of its contribution to that. We need to grow that. We need to grow that aggressively, and we can grow it, and everyone can create value. The councillors don't need to be worrying about having to use money out of their own pockets to sustain their local leagues. The ZIFA at national level must be able to attend to those developmental issues and help our football to grow. It's saddening to find ourselves in a situation whereby a few people at the top make decisions for the grassroots and sometimes ignore what's happening at the grassroots. It's really, really saddening. And I get very emotional when people then say, but Magwizi is anti-councillors. I've been working with the councillors. I know the troubles that they go through. I know the amount of sacrifice that they've put into the game to keep things moving forward. People at the top are not put up at TV. Those are the ones who then want to say, no, we know things. No. The people that are doing the work are the ones at the grassroots. That's where we need to put our attention to.
So let's now go into your campaign.
Sure.
What is Magwizi promising? What is your campaign premised on?
Thank you, Yvonne. So my campaign is premised on 5 pillars. 5 pillars, very clear. Pillar number 1 speaks to the issue of building a stable and a strong institution of ZIFA. Now, a strong institution pertains to a number of things. I'll come back to them. So that's pillar number 1. There's also pillar number 2, which speaks to the partnerships, building strong partnerships with all the stakeholders. Here we're looking at the government, we're looking at the corporate world, we're looking at the NGOs, we're looking at your regulatory bodies, and so forth. Then pillar number 3, we're looking at the commercialization of the sport, ensuring that we have enough money moving through the system, a commercial model that will sustain the activities we have in the association. Then pillar number 4 speaks to the infrastructure and the technology we need to ensure that we can have matches played in respectable places and protecting, of course, the future of the game. Then pillar number 5 speaks to the technical prowess we seek to achieve Once we have all these other 4 things, we're now talking about having our own philosophy on the pitch, making sure that we have technical teams that drive our progress in football, and absolutely winning the tournaments. And that's important because that's where we are measured. The fans are not worried about all the stuff we do behind the scenes. When Zimbabwe goes onto the pitch and plays Kenya, are we going to win? That's the question that a lot of the fans will be asking. So it is very important that our technical prowess is of note. So this is, in summary, the 5 pillars. But I can go into detail on each one so that at least you can have a full understanding of what we're talking about.
Sitting there, I'm seeing all that corporate experience, that PE background. I can tell you're able to sell your story. I can tell how you changed, like the passion, the drive. What's driving that? What's making you, when you started talking about the councillors, I could feel the emotion. I could feel, how connected you are to the issues. What's driving that? Because coming into the interview, my perception was, he's a guy who's coming from the corporate. Would he really understand the issues? What's driving that passion?
Yvonne, you understand? I know the struggles that happen in grassroots. I know this. And when I did a program with Stellenbosch University, which was an MPhil in development finance, it allowed me to open up my eyes and see what solutions we can bring about in our communities. The program really, allowed us to see how best we could fight poverty. Our biggest enemy in Africa is poverty. And football is one platform that we can all use to address that issue. Because within football, the rich and the poor can find each other. The strong and the weak can find each other in football. The learned and the unlearned, we can find each other there. So football is a common place where if we utilize it properly, we can transform our communities for the better.
So let's now go into the pillars. You explain the first pillar.
Yes. So the first pillar is the building a strong institution. So here we're talking about having an institution which has a strong corporate governance culture, strong governance framework, roles which are clearly defined. Right now, you have a situation whereby the members of the executive committee, they are involved in the operational issues of the association, which is wrong. The board members need to be capacitated to understand what their role is. The secretariat needs to be capacitated to understand what their role is. We need to have regular audits that speak to what has happened over a period, and it must be reported to all the stakeholders. It can't be something that it should be done by a few people who know exactly what has happened. If money comes in from whichever source, we must be able to account for every cent so that we move forward. So we are talking about corporate governance issues, but there's also the issue of the structural attention that we need to give to our society. Do we have the correct structure? So the institution needs to have the structure which is sustainable. The current structure, in my view, is not sustainable. There is need, obviously, to decentralize. And my view would be, we need to have the professional leagues at the top, right? Right now we have the men's professional in Premiership. We have the women's, right? So I would add to have the beach and the futsal. Those make our professional league. But we have also additional professional, which is in Division 1. Division 1, maybe Division 2, being the second tier. But these ones, my view would be, we need to have the regional bodies converted into associations. Rather than making them runners for the national association, we create associations, Northern region, Southern region, Central region, Eastern region. We create association, and an assembly is created in each of those regions, where provincial members are participating and making decisions. Each of these associations will be given a budget. When, say, FIFA sends money, say they send 4 million, for instance, each association gets its allocation based on the budget they've submitted. And the role of the National Association is to give oversight in all the activities of football across the country. In that way, we make sure that we continue to move. Everyone is working. Right now, we have a situation whereby we have only the guys who are in the National Association making decisions for everyone. And the councillors are only useful when you have an assembly for voting, when you have elections. But after that, maybe you might have a few who may be lucky to join some of the committees. But to be honest, it's not sustainable. So we need to decentralize, get people to participate, to work. When you have the councillors making decisions, because they are the ones in touch with the grassroots, the money is going to go where it's best wanted. Right now, we have monies that come through FIFA forward funds. How is that money even distributed? It's money for development. The people that are actually the core of development, are they getting those resources? So we need to make sure that we have a structure that ensures money goes all the way down. I was fortunate to be hosted by Mr. Andrew Kamanga, a man of note I admire a lot from Zambia. He came in after Brother Kalusha Bwalia, and he took me through what he has done in Zambia. He has 10 provinces. Each province has an association. And there is Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, and women's in each province. And this association is responsible for that development in each province. And they have targets, KPIs that they have to meet, right? Now, that's your amateur and the social league. Then you go to the professional. The professional, what they have in Zambia is they have the Premier League, right, for men and for women. And they also have Division 1 for men and for women. And those ones obviously are supported by sponsors. But all the money that comes in, that comes from the National Association, goes to the provinces. And you've seen the results that are coming out of Zambia. I was very proud. They're winning awards. They're being recognized. Because you can see there's enough traction that has been built over the years that Mr. Kamanga has been running that association.
But what has been the reaction from, obviously the councillors are the people that are in the provinces. What has been the reaction to this part of your of what you are promising to say, this is what I bring on the table? How have they reacted to that?
They've found it very refreshing. It's unfortunate that I think one of the cultures, which I hope it will end, one of the cultures that has permeated the football space is that of people smearing one another, So the councillors have told me, but Magwizi, the information we're getting about you is that you are someone who's aloof, you are someone who wants to be more special. You don't want to answer people's phones. Those are the issues that have been coming up.
Can I say something? The first time I sent you a message, and immediately we phoned and we were talking, I was very surprised. It's actually a person that I called, the journalist, and I said, do you know I sent a message to Magwizi immediately? Because where is this coming from? Because I am full-time in cricket. I'm not as involved in day-to-day journalism as others. But the perception I had is the same perception that you're saying, that you're aloof, you feel yourself, you think you're coming from this environment. Yeah. Why? And how can that be corrected?
It is unfortunate, but it's a race. It's a competition. So people will use whatever is at their disposal. So if they can't find anything, so they'll create stuff. So what's been created recently is Magwizi wants to attack all the councillors. Magwizi is aloof. He won't answer your calls. If he gets in there, he's a spy. In fact, allegations have been as bad as that. Magwizi is a spy. He's an agent who's been sent to make sure that he creates
the chosen one.
He's the chosen one. So there is lots and lots and lots and lots of labels that have been stuck on me. But I'm not even deterred. I'm committed to my community. I'm committed to the vision which I have. I believe we can make a difference. I believe we can turn around the fortunes of Zimbabwean football.
But does that not make your work harder now? Because now you have to personally ensure that you've seen each and every person and they get to know who you really are.
Absolutely, Yvonne. I have to then work harder and present my case. I'm happy to lose to a worthy candidate. I'm happy. I don't mind. But I'm going to put my best foot forward. I've put up my hand to say I can make a difference. The people will judge. The councillors will judge. If they believe that I'm the right guy to do the job, I'll be honored to do it. And I think I will deliver that mandate. I will deliver, and I think I'll make everyone in Zimbabwe proud.
My biggest concern, you've partly answered it when you spoke about grassroots and all that. My biggest concern has always been the feeder system, which you partly even spoke about, these structures that you'd want to see, because we've just been concerned about the output, the Warriors qualifying for AFCON, going for qualifiers and all these things, when the bottom line, not a lot is happening when it comes to junior development. How are you going to tackle the issue of junior development? Because for me, that's something that is very close to my heart.
So once we decentralize, everyone will become busy in their provinces. There will be KPIs we will set for all the leaders in those provinces to ensure that we have a continuous flow of talent from your schools. We have the NAF, the NASH, and the tertiary. There's a lot of academies as well. We put a framework in place to just make sure that there is continuous movement of players. There is the issue I spoke to earlier, where I referred to us having a philosophy, a football philosophy for Zimbabwe, where we have a formula of play, which we sail right across. If we agree that we are restructuring our association and we give responsibilities, the guys, the councillors who are in the grassroots, I can tell you right now, they are working. They work. What they are lacking is the support. They are lacking resources. So if we restructure our association in a manner whereby resources now go to them, you'll be amazed. You'll see what will happen to Zimbabwe. In 5 years' time, Zimbabwe will be at another level. Will be just like your Cameroon or your Ghana, even Zambia. Will be even like Uganda has done a great job as well in terms of restructuring. They're doing a fantastic job.
And when you look at all the things that you want to work on,
yes,
obviously you're passionate about all of them.
Yes.
But if I'm watching and I want to remember what Magwizi is bringing on the table, what's the most important thing you want them to remember about your campaign?
We need to have strong partnerships. If our institution has a good brand and those we work with trust us, they'll be more than willing to put resources than we'll be able to handle, because they can believe these people are serious. Right now, the institution has been damaged. Its reputation is damaged. There was a skit, or rather, something that was posted on social media where two were discussing on where they should send money for the Warriors. So the one mentioned that, let's send it to ZIFA. And they said, no, we can't send that money to ZIFA because it's going to be what? It's about branding.
Yes.
Yes, it's a joke. It came out as a joke,
yes,
but it's about branding. Perception out there is that ZIFA is a den of thieves. That's the perception. And we've walked this journey from COVID to when we're banned, and we have the normalization committee. We have an opportunity to open a new page, opportunity to clear out all the issues that have been a challenge to us for over the years. Opportunity to start again and make sure that we make Zimbabwe win.
And in your campaign, is there anything that has shocked you? What has shocked you the most as a person coming in and seeing what's happening, and now you are saying, I want to lead the sport? During your campaign, what has shocked you the most?
The toxicity has really shocked me. I expected it, but not to the level that I've seen. But I'm still okay with it. I'm still okay. And I think as I engage with people will be able to understand a bit more of who I am and what the intentions are. Right now, a scandal has been created, conspiracy has been created. But as we speak to more of the stakeholders, they will understand that we are one family. We are all Zimbabweans. And what we want is one thing. And one thing is for Zimbabwe to prosper in the football space. And if that is indeed our genuine desire, all of us, then definitely we'll look for those issues that will make us prosper.
Have you had moments of regret? Why did I start this? I should have just stayed where I was.
No. I know it's a journey that I'm willing to see to the end. As I've told you, I grew up in circumstances which were not as rosy, but I believe that for everything that is worth it, you need to really go through the mill. You go through the mill, and by the way, when you have people that perhaps discourage or perhaps talk you down, it sharpens you as well. I'm not perfect. There's things that I'm going to learn, and I understand that. Do I believe that I will be able to sustain ZIFA going to the future? Yes, of course. I believe that I can transform the organization. I believe I'm the right guy for this responsibility. I believe I'll work with others, even the compatriots who have been in the race. There's a lot of other good things that I believe they can still add to the game. Some have sacrificed. The sacrifice somebody puts in when they build a stadium for people to play in, personal resources, you have to respect that. You have to. So there is people that have sacrificed, and I respect that. But what is important is we need to come together as one people to say, what do we want? Do we want success for football or want success for individuals? If we are indeed looking to make Zimbabwe successful, then let's put our heads together and bring this success for our, combined enjoyment as a people, as Zimbabweans.
And there's another issue.
Yes.
You're part of the committee that was doing the whole procuring and bringing of bucket seats, and there's been talk about the fact that you sort of personalized it to make it seem like you're the one who brought the National Sports Stadium bucket seats. Let's clarify that, because speculation is that you deliberately delayed the coming of the bucket seats because you wanted to use it as an election tool.
It's very unfortunate, but I think it's always good when you clarify, because when people perpetuate wrong information, of course, it's important to always, clear that space by, providing the facts. My company, so there is an MOU which was signed between Sakunda and the Ministry of Sport. I spearheaded that process. As I explained earlier, my role as a consultant, I spearheaded that process. And Sakunda is coming in to donate those resources. I was assigned as a consultant to manage the process, that MOU. Additionally, my company is also managing the process of installation. It is a donation that Sakunda is giving to the ministry because it's part of its CSR program. Okay, so it's not a tender, it's not a business transaction which is taking place. The transaction aspect is between me and Sakunda, where I'm a consultant of Sakunda and doing this work because Sakunda has given me that job to execute on behalf of itself as it is working with the Minister of Sport.
So why the delay then? Because the second part is about the claimed delay because you wanted to use it conveniently in the election period.
It is unfortunate that people would package it as a delay. So these seats are coming out of China, all right? There is almost 60,000 of them, okay? There is journalist desks that have been manufactured, which we ordered, working closely with the team from the ministry. All these things needed to be manufactured from scratch with the colors that we prescribed. If you follow the news, there's a time I actually went with the team from the ministry to China, where we were actually doing a due diligence as to who should manufacture. It was early this year, around March. At that time, after we were satisfied, we brought a report to our principals. They signed off to say, let's proceed with this supplier. Once we got the sign off, we then had to start the process of placing in an order, and the deposits had to be paid. Money has to move from Zimbabwe to China. You know the process of applying for money through the Reserve Bank. It's a process. They start the manufacturing process. When they manufacture, they're in Jinan. You have to move from Jinan, this consignment of 28 containers, to the airport, Nigbo. From the airport, you have to book the containers. You have to make sure that these containers, they're on the ship, they move to Beira. From Beira, you have to organize the logistics to move the stuff to Harare. And by the way, as we're trying to move the stuff into Harare, there was an incident in Mozambique, and nothing was moving into Harare for almost 2 weeks. And who plans for the incidents that were happening in Mozambique, So it is unfortunate, but I'm glad most of the stuff has arrived. There is work that is taking place. A lot of resources are going to be required. But let me just make it clear. Sakunda's responsibility primarily is on the bucket seats. there's a lot of other aspects that need attention that the ministry is working on. Because I think other contracts have already been given. The issue of the plumbing needs to be, taken care of. The turnstiles, it's also being worked on. Sakunda is not involved. There is, I think, the pitch. Of course, I'm part of the task force by virtue of my role. But of course, we then add, suggestions based on our vast knowledge and obviously network to assist. But Sakunda effectively has a responsibility on the bucket seats. So there's no one who was delaying anything. It's unfortunate that people think that.
No, because the perception is Sakunda can just get it over, and then why is it taking so long? And I'm glad you cleared that part.
Yes.
And I'm also glad that you came in the studio, because I feel there's so many gray areas that you are putting light and clarity on. What's the most absurd thing you've ever heard about you in your period now getting involved into the election campaign?
I think one of the compatriots, motivated someone to talk about me is someone who's on sanctions. When they fully knew that I'd been removed. So that was very interesting. I thought that was upset because they knew the facts. But I then learned very quickly that I guess it's an issue of mudslinging, And it's very unfortunate that people then resort to things that are non-existent when they realize that maybe you are indeed a threat to what they are planning. But this is a race. So I accept that it's a race. Every contender must do whatever is ethically possible to give themselves an edge to win. I wish that every of my compatriots, the best of luck in this race. And I think let's put the best forward. Zimbabwe must win ultimately. And even if one loses, we must always find each other to make Zimbabwe benefit. If we are really, really passionate and if we are genuine about our intentions, there's no one who's going to lose.
We're starting to round up the show. What do you want people to remember about you? Like, what are the takeaways you want the viewers that are watching that don't have the access that I've had to sit down with you and talk? What do you want the takeaway to be when they think of? I wanted to say the name and then I'm like, I'm going to mess it up again. N Magwizi.
No. So, our biggest problem, as I've said earlier on, is it's poverty. And a lot of the fights which happen, the strife, the toxicity, is because maybe people are not patient enough to listen to each other, because there's underlying poverty somewhere, which we can address. And by the way, I've said football is a platform that can help us address issues of financial inclusion. Through the football platform, we can address issues of the credit bureaus and information asymmetry, allowing people to then access loans through this platform of football. We can be able to fund all the activities nicely, put fintech in place on this platform, and work together with the banks. There is a good population in football, and people are just waiting for somebody who has the correct ideas, who can open the correct doors to be able to unlock the value we can unlock. There is a lot that we can do. And I think to the viewers, I think the issue is we have an opportunity to turn a new page for Zimbabwean football. For the past 24, 25 years since the Dream Team, I think we have not really had a smooth run. It's been one boardroom fight after another. It's been one scandal after another. And it is unfortunate. We have an opportunity, all of us as Zimbabweans, to turn a new page and to create value, transform Zimbabwean football, and be recognized globally as a success story. I believe we're not far from that.
And before we go, I always like to give my guests this platform to say, is there anything that you feel I want to speak about, but Yvonne didn't ask me about this? Any area you're like, I think I need to highlight this.
Yeah. So one of the things that I believe we will be able to do on the commercial side on ZIFA, one of the things that I believe we'll be able to do. One of my strengths, obviously, is branding. I've done a lot of branding. I also have understanding of international banking and finance. I also understand development finance, which are areas that I've become very competent in. Right now, we have a lot of teams in Zimbabwe that play. Merchandise can be created. ZIFA can create a brand. Picture this, where our national team is wearing a brand which we own. All our national teams, from the senior to the juniors, all the teams in the leagues wearing that brand that is owned by the institution, by our association. Imagine what value it can create. Just imagine the Warriors are doing very well. And there is 2 million replicas we are able to sell out of our 16.7 million population. We sell 2 million, and perhaps we sell them for $10. We'll be able to make $20 million quite easily. And if we remove the costs, maybe the costs are maybe 70% of that. You'll be left with a significant amount of money, maybe $6 million profit, out of that. So there is lots of models, financial models we can put in place, which will benefit Zimbabwe and the growth of football in Zimbabwe. So I'm very excited about this opportunity. I'm very grateful that, you brought me here. I was wondering because everyone else was being called. I said, okay, what did I do to Yvonne that she doesn't even...
I thought you were aloof.
No, I was busy saying, okay. I even asked my wife to say, okay, this lady doesn't even know that I'm there. What did I do? Then we had to pray about it. And
a manifestation of
Yeah.
No, I think it's because I thought you were aloof, so I was going through the corners. I think you realized there's just one day I woke up and I said, I'm just going to talk to him direct. And I was so surprised, like I told you, sent you a message and immediately you called, we had a good chat. I'm like,
okay.
Cool. He was nice. So I think it's nice that you came on the show and we got to see this side, and hopefully people at home who are like me would understand who this guy is, or have heard things, or understand what you're bringing to the table, what sort of person you are, your background. Because the reason we ask people the background is so you get an understanding. And by the way, what I feel
You went to Tsungai?
Yes, I went to Tsungai. I partly grew up in Egypt. And then Jerusalem. So I've been around sports people.
Oh, nice. No, that's my community. Yeah, that's my community. And I'm very proud. I have no regrets to have gone through that. And I'm very grateful, actually, that I had that opportunity to grow up. I still have my friends out there in Ifield, Ezekiel, Joram, we used to play together, and needs all those boys, we grew up. We are there. One of my friends was very good in football. He was actually at BZ. He's late, Shepherd Surgeon. He was also at Prince Edward. We went together. I mean, very young. He's late now, but yeah, very sad news, he died. But we grew up there, it was our place.
Thank you very much for being on the show, and thank you very much for coming. And thank you also to everybody who's watched this interview, and hoping that you got an insight into another presidential candidate. And I keep not wanting to say your name because I don't want to mess it up.
No, it's okay. You can go ahead.
So
that's how you learn. It's okay. Well done.
Nqobile.
Yes. It's okay.
So Nqobile Magwizi was on the show with us and just giving us a brief idea of who he is. Is he the right candidate for you for the ZIFA presidency? We wait to see. The elections are coming. We don't vote. I can get you to see these candidates and get an idea, but at the end of the day, it is the councillors after all, and hoping that the best man will win. Until the next show, hopefully I'm also bringing somebody who's been waiting to say, when's my turn? Make sure that you're logged in next week, same time, same place. Goodbye.